There is a moment in Scripture that most people read past without realizing what it hides. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, and it does not announce itself with signs in the sky. Yet it quietly reveals that the rapture follows a timeline, not chaos. What you are seeing is not the event itself, it is what happens before it. The Bible never describes the rapture as random, it describes it as prepared, planned, and preceded by a sequence that unfolds in silence. Long before anyone is taken, something changes in the atmosphere of the world. Not the air, but the attention. People become busy, distracted, confident that tomorrow will look exactly like today. Jesus warned that the days leading up to the end would feel ordinary, eating, working, building, planning. Nothing visibly wrong, nothing visibly urgent. That is why the timeline is hidden, because it does not interrupt life, it blends into it. The first marker is not disaster, it is delay, a slowing of conviction, a quiet loss of urgency. Prayer becomes optional, truth becomes flexible, and readiness becomes something people assume they have without checking. This is where the separation begins, not in the clouds, but in the heart. Some people notice the shift. They feel a weight they cannot explain, a sense that time is thinner than it used to be. Others feel nothing at all, and that difference matters more than most realize. The timeline continues with warning, not shouted, but repeated. Messages that sound familiar enough to ignore. Truth spoken so often that it feels safe to postpone responding. Scripture calls this the moment of watching, not waiting, watching, because waiting assumes you know when something will happen. Watching assumes you do not. The next phase is quiet division, not of nations, but of priorities. Some lives begin to simplify, distractions fall away, convictions sharpen. Others grow louder, faster, more crowded, as if filling every moment will somehow stop time from moving forward. Jesus compared this period to the days of Noah, not because of sin alone, but because of disbelief. People did not reject the warning, they simply did not believe it required immediate action. And that is the danger of the hidden timeline. It never feels urgent until it is complete. The world does not collapse before the rapture. It stabilizes just enough to make people comfortable. This is why the image of light matters, not because it is visible to everyone, but because only those looking upward notice when it begins to intensify. The timeline does not end with a countdown. It ends with recognition. Some will realize too late that the silence they felt was not peace, it was patience. And patience always runs out. The rapture is not the beginning of the story, it is the reveal of who was already ready. And this is where the timeline grows more specific, more personal, more impossible to ignore. Because the next movement does not happen around the world, it happens within individuals. And once that phase begins, there is no visible sign that it has started, only the consequences of ignoring it. This is why understanding the timeline matters, not to predict a date, but to recognize the season, because the final moments do not arrive suddenly, they arrive quietly, after everything necessary has already taken place. And what happens next in this sequence is something most people never talk about, not because it is unclear, but because it forces a question few are willing to answer yet. A question that reveals whether the timeline has already reached its final stage.
When that inner shift begins, it doesn't announce itself with fear. It arrives as clarity, a strange awareness that certain choices can no longer be delayed. People begin to feel uncomfortable doing things that once felt normal. Entertainment loses its grip, noise feels heavier, and silence starts to speak louder than words. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. The hidden timeline moves from the world into the individual, and this stage is the most overlooked because nothing external changes at first. Jobs remain, schedules continue, life looks the same to everyone else, but internally something has shifted, and once it does, it cannot be reversed. Scripture hints that before the gathering, there is a sealing, not something visible, not a mark, but a settling, a firm decision inside the heart that truth is no longer optional. This is why some people suddenly feel drawn back to Scripture, not out of habit, but hunger. Verses they've heard their entire life begin to sound urgent, as if they were written for this exact moment. Others hear the same words and feel nothing, no resistance, no curiosity, just indifference. And this difference grows wider with time. The timeline does not rush, it waits, allowing everyone to choose comfort or readiness without pressure. Jesus spoke often about this phase using parables, stories where the delay was the test, not the event itself. The oil was not gathered at the last moment, it was prepared long before anyone knew when it would be needed. This is the part most people misunderstand. They assume readiness is emotional, but Scripture presents it as intentional. Every small decision matters here. What you listen to, what you ignore, what you postpone, because postponement is the language of the unprepared. As the timeline progresses, discernment sharpens for some. They begin noticing patterns, not dates, patterns, a repetition of warnings across different places, different voices saying the same thing without coordination. This is not fear spreading, it is confirmation. Meanwhile, distractions intensify, entertainment becomes louder, debate becomes endless, truth becomes something people argue about instead of live by. This is not accidental, it is part of the separation. The timeline does not remove people from the world immediately, it reveals who belongs where before that moment arrives. And here is the unsettling truth. By the time the final stage approaches, most minds are already made up, not because of one big decision, but because of thousands of small ones. The rapture does not change hearts, it exposes them. This is why Jesus emphasized watching more than knowing, because knowing creates confidence, but watching creates humility, and humility is the posture of readiness. The hidden timeline continues to advance quietly, without headlines, without countdowns, but there is a point where preparation turns into final positioning, and that transition is subtle enough that only those paying attention will recognize it. Because when that phase begins, the window for adjustment narrows, not suddenly, but steadily. And what marks that shift is something very few people expect, something that does not look spiritual at all. Yet once it appears, it confirms that the timeline has moved forward again.
As that subtle shift settles in, daily life begins to feel divided in a way that's hard to explain, not between good and bad, but between meaningful and empty. Some conversations start feeling shallow, not because people are wrong, but because time feels expensive now. Moments that once passed unnoticed begin to carry weight, a sense that every choice is being quietly recorded, not by the world, but by something eternal. This is where the hidden timeline becomes uncomfortable, because it does not accuse, it reveals. People notice they are being pulled in one of two directions, toward depth or toward distraction. There is no force, no pressure, just opportunity. Scripture describes this phase as refinement, not punishment. Refinement always happens before separation. Gold is not purified after it is stored. It is purified before it is gathered. This is why some people experience resistance, not from the world, but from within. Old habits feel heavier, excuses feel thinner, and silence becomes unavoidable. Others experience the opposite. They feel an urgency to fill every moment, more noise, more activity, less stillness, because stillness is where awareness grows, and awareness demands response. The hidden timeline advances without changing the calendar. Days still pass, weeks still move forward, but spiritually something is narrowing.
the space between warning and fulfillment grows smaller, even though nothing outward seems different. Jesus spoke of this when he said the door would one day be shut, not slammed, not announced, simply closed, and those outside would not realize when it happened, only that it had. This is why the preparation phase feels gentle, almost merciful. No one is rushed, no one is forced, everyone is given time, but time itself is part of the test. The longer things remain normal, the easier it becomes to assume they always will, and assumption is the greatest danger in the hidden timeline. Those who are watching notice small confirmations, a verse that aligns with a message they heard days earlier, a conversation that answers a question they never asked aloud. These are not coincidences, they are reminders. Reminders that the timeline is active, even when it feels quiet. Others dismiss the same moments, calling them random, calling them imagination, and slowly the gap between these two responses grows, not visibly, not socially, but spiritually. This is the phase where separation happens internally, long before it happens physically. The rapture will not interrupt this process, it will complete it. Which means by the time that moment arrives, nothing will be unfinished. And the timeline continues toward a point where watching turns into recognition, where those paying attention realize something has shifted again, not in the world, but in access. Because the next stage is not about preparation anymore, it is about position, and position determines outcome. What signals that transition is subtle enough that most people overlook it, yet clear enough that those who are watching cannot miss it. And once that indicator appears, the timeline does not pause, it advances with purpose, leading into a phase that reshapes everything people thought they understood about waiting. As that stage unfolds, awareness begins to sharpen in unexpected ways. People start sensing boundaries they never noticed before. Not physical boundaries, but spiritual ones. Certain doors feel lighter to walk through. Others feel heavy, as if resistance itself is a message. This is where discernment quietly becomes essential, because not every opportunity is alignment, and not every delay is denial. Jesus often spoke in parables during moments like this, because truth at this stage is not hidden, it is filtered. Those who are listening carefully understand. Those who are not hear the same words and feel nothing. This is not coincidence, it is conditioning. The hidden timeline begins training the heart to recognize what belongs and what does not, without announcements, without signs in the sky. Some people feel an increasing discomfort with compromise. Things once justified no longer sit well. Excuses feel exposed. Others feel a strange calm settling in, not because everything is resolved, but because clarity is replacing confusion. This calm is not passive, it is focused. It carries a quiet readiness, a sense that attention matters now more than ever. The timeline does not rush anyone, but it does reduce margins. Choices feel smaller but heavier. Words feel slower but more intentional. Jesus described this as staying awake, not physically, but inwardly, because sleep at this stage does not look like rest, it looks like distraction. Distraction becomes easier to justify because nothing seems urgent on the surface. Yet beneath the surface, alignment is being measured, not by activity, but by direction. Where attention naturally flows reveals more than declarations ever could. This is why the timeline remains hidden. If it were obvious, behavior would change without the heart changing. Instead, the heart is given room to reveal itself. Some begin to notice patterns repeating, opportunities to choose differently, returning again and again. This is not delay, it is mercy. Mercy gives space for recognition before consequence becomes irreversible. Jesus warned that many would say they were ready, but readiness is not claimed, it is demonstrated, and demonstration happens long before the moment arrives. The timeline continues forward as this realization deepens, as awareness replaces assumption, as watching replaces waiting. And gradually, something begins to thin, not time, but tolerance for indifference, because indifference cannot survive clarity. The next phase intensifies this distinction even further, introducing pressures that reveal what has truly taken root. And when that pressure begins to show itself, the hidden timeline moves into a dimension that few expect, yet many will recognize instantly.
As those pressures surface, reactions begin to reveal what words never could. Some people feel an internal resistance rising, not against fear, but against truth that requires adjustment. Others feel a steady pull toward simplification, fewer distractions, clearer priorities, a quieter inner life. This is where the hidden timeline becomes deeply personal, because no two journeys look identical, yet the direction becomes unmistakable. Jesus spoke of narrow paths not to frighten, but to clarify. A narrow path does not mean restricted access, it means focused movement. At this stage, focus becomes the dividing line. What holds attention shapes alignment. The world continues offering noise, opinions multiply, certainty feels louder than ever. But certainty without grounding creates instability. Those who are watching feel less need to react, more need to remain steady. Steadiness begins to matter more than speed, because haste at this stage often leads away from purpose. The hidden timeline teaches patience without delay, action without panic. Jesus modeled this when urgency surrounded him, yet his movement remained deliberate. Some notice their tolerance for superficial comfort fading. Entertainment feels temporary. Escape feels unsatisfying. This does not mean joy disappears. It means joy changes source. Joy begins to come from alignment rather than avoidance. Others feel unsettled by this shift. They seek familiar reassurance, something predictable. But the timeline does not offer predictability. It offers preparation. Preparation reshapes desire. What once felt essential becomes optional. What once felt optional becomes necessary. This inner reordering is quiet, often invisible to others, yet it marks real movement. Scripture hints that before great change, there is recognition. Recognition that something old cannot be carried forward. This is why some feel an urge to release unresolved weight, unspoken words, lingering guilt, delayed obedience. Not because judgment is near, but because freedom is. Freedom requires lightness. Jesus emphasized forgiveness during times of readiness, not as a ritual, but as a clearing. A clearing creates space. Space allows readiness to breathe. The hidden timeline continues forward as these internal adjustments settle, as clarity replaces clutter, and slowly awareness shifts again, from personal alignment toward collective movement. People begin noticing not just themselves changing, but others as well. Conversations deepen unexpectedly. Silence becomes meaningful. This signals that the timeline is advancing into a shared phase, where individual readiness begins to intersect.
What emerges next carries implications beyond the personal and introduces a layer that challenges assumptions about timing, sequence, and recognition.
As that shared phase takes shape, recognition spreads quietly among those who have been paying attention, not through announcements, not through agreement, but through alignment. People begin to sense the same weight at the same time, a seriousness without fear, a calm without confusion. This is where the hidden timeline completes its purpose, because preparation is no longer theoretical, it is evident. Jesus said that when the fig tree puts out leaves, those who are watching know the season. They do not need a date, they recognize readiness. At this stage, faith becomes settled, not loud, not reactive, but anchored. Those who are prepared are not looking for escape, they are living with intention, their lives already positioned toward what is coming. This is why the final movement does not shock them, it confirms what they already knew. The hidden timeline has done its work. Attention has been refined, distraction has lost its power, direction has been clarified. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. The moment arrives exactly as it was always meant to, not as interruption, but as completion. Those who are ready recognize it instantly, not because of what happens around them, but because of what was formed within them. Jesus warned so that no one who watches would be caught unaware, so that faith would not be shaken by surprise, so that readiness would replace fear. The rapture does not arrive as chaos to those who are prepared. It arrives as fulfillment. What was hidden is revealed. What was forming is completed. What was promised is kept. This is why watching mattered. This is why alignment mattered. This is why the quiet moments were never wasted. The timeline was never about knowing when, it was about becoming ready. And when that moment comes, those who were prepared will understand.